Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. Now that we have Week 12 kicked off with Thursday Night Football, we're going to look into the Sunday day games one by one. So if this is not the pregame of the two teams that you're looking for, go look for the other video that should be on the channel. But otherwise, let's get into this one. Here we have a divisional game with Minnesota going to Green Bay, where Green Bay is favored on the money line with a spread of 6 points and a total line of 41.5. Flipping over for your team averages, and then looking at the rankings, you have Minnesota with a almost bottom third offense, maybe not quite, but pretty bad offense across the board in the low 20s. And then even on top of it, they're the worst in the league at utilizing their tight ends. And then their defense is a little better, with an allowed passing rate of 7 being their best, top third in the league for stopping the pass, but pretty bad at stopping the rush still, and about average at stopping their opponents from scoring. For Green Bay, you have about average offense, with a passing rate of 11 and a rushing rate of 19, coming out for about an average one, with a scoring rank also of 14, which is close to average. A little better with their tight ends here. However, we may not still see the full effect of Tucker Kraft being out. Defensively, they're top third, maybe about 7th or 8th overall in the league, with this allowed scoring rank of 7, allowed passing rank of 8, allowed rushing rank of 7. The worst is that their allowed tight end rank is 14. Starting off with the quarterback comparison, you have J.J. McCarthy and Jordan Love. McCarthy getting an average of 12.9 fantasy points per game, and Jordan Love averaging 16.5. You have McCarthy with 8 interceptions this season, and 1 fumble lost due to a sack, and you have Jordan Love with 3 interceptions this season, and 2 fumbles lost due to a sack. With our averages and shares, we'll start with McCarthy, which we can't see unfortunately, but it's probably about 15 to 17 or 18% of the rushing carry share and rushing yard share. That's with an average of 4.2 carries and 22 average rushing yards per game. And then with Love, he gets about 12.9% of the rushing carry share and 14.3% of the rushing yard share. And don't forget, we'll see this next with the running backs when it's not popped out if you need those exact numbers. And moving to said running backs, we have Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs, with Aaron Jones averaging 10.3 fantasy points per game and Josh Jacobs averaging 18.1 fantasy points per game. The only turnovers come from Jacobs with 1 rushing fumble. And then here's your averages. And looking at the share, you get Aaron Jones with 24.4% of the team's rushing carry share and 26.1% of the team's rushing yard share. And we can see he's not the largest share because you have Jordan Mason here with about 50% of the team's carry share and rushing share. That's because he got a whole bunch while Aaron Jones was out, so that kind of accumulated there, as well as him being utilized still with Aaron Jones. And I plan on the future on having something that will show how they trend so you can see how much they actually use more in current times rather than throughout the whole season. Over here with Josh Jacobs, he gets about 66.3% of the team's rushing carry share and about 64% of the team's rushing yard share. Getting into our receivers, you have Justin Jefferson, and Christian Watson is listed as the number 1 receiver right now for Green Bay, with Justin Jefferson getting an average of 14.3 fantasy points per game and Watson averaging 11.8. Neither of them have any turnovers, so we'll go to their averages, and we'll start off with target share, with Justin Jefferson at 31.6% of the team's total target share and 36.3% of the team's total receiving yard share. And as everybody would know with Justin Jefferson, he does own the largest share for both on his team. For Christian Watson, he gets about 6.5% of the team's target share right now and 10.7% of the team's receiving yard share. If he stays as the number 1 receiver and is utilized a little bit more, that should grow over time. But it does look like Green Bay's had it spread out with many different receivers this year. Next up for our number 2 listed receivers, you have Jordan Addison and Romeo Doubs, with Addison getting 12.7 fantasy points per game and Doubs getting about 11.5 fantasy points per game. With no turnovers, once again, we'll look at the averages and their shares, with Addison getting about 17.7% of the team's target share and 20% of the team's receiving yard share. This is also the second largest on the team, which is also appropriate for him being the number 2 receiver. And then with Doubs, he gets about 24.6% of the team's target share and 22.8% of the team's total receiving yard share. And at the moment, that appears to make him the largest share of anybody on the team. Ending up with our tight ends, you have TJ Hawkinson and Luke Musgrave. Hawkinson averaging 7.4 fantasy points per game and Musgrave averaging 3. There's been no turnovers given up by either tight end. So we'll just go into their shares, with Hawkinson getting about 16% of the team's target share and about 13.6% of the team's receiving yard share. And then with Luke Musgrave, you get about 5.8% of the team's target share and 5% of the team's receiving yard share. Again, over time, if they utilize them like they did with Kraft, that should grow. Otherwise, it may not if he's not as good as Kraft in that position. So there's your data for this game. It looks like you could have an interesting matchup with this passing rate of 11 going against an allowed passing rate of 7. So if Minnesota shuts down the passing game, you are then stuck with a rushing game of 19 against 22. So you could have Minnesota's defense shutting down Green Bay's offense here, but you still would have to get past Green Bay's defense in order for Minnesota to win with a pretty bad offense. So it does seem like Green Bay should be able to hold on to this, and it does seem like it should be a pretty low scoring game that way. So there's all your data for that matchup. I hope you found it interesting and useful, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on what else you might want to see in the future. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.